world surrounded by franchises, reboots, and shared universes. An elite team of podcasters will risk body and soul to investigate the depths of intellectual properties, one multiverse, subgenre, and trend at a time. Who are we? We're the IP Squad. Welcome back to the IP Squad, our ongoing investigation into films based on pulp and comic strip heroes. I'm John Campbell. Of course, my partners for this investigation. Oh boy, they were bickering just before we started recording because they couldn't be more different. It's the Jones boys.
I'm just saying that if Specs wants to keep footnoting every time we got to have a conversation, and I can't have some peace to drink my coffee, eat a chili dog, and get to work on the streets, maybe we shouldn't work together, is all I'm saying.
By the way, footnoting was my dance craze hit from the 60s.
He's footnoting.
Footnoting.
Footnoting. Jeez, you think you can get some more royalties if you keep bringing it up all the time? Ugh.
I could use it. Come on, folks. Go to Apple Music and download Footnoting.
Footnoting. Brendan needs that 10 cents he gets.
Specs Jones.
Yeah, Specs Jones. Yeah.
I love
the fact huge release on Rhino Records
is currently not wearing glasses.
No.
And the guy mocking him is wearing glasses.
And
that's because I'm in disguise as you. I explained this.
And I also know why you're not wearing glasses, because you left them somewhere last night.
Shut up.
What? Did you have your nose so close in a book you forgot that you needed
I was at a lovely event last night, and I happened to leave my glasses behind. And so I watched today's film on my iPad because iPad is close.
Yeah.
And I saw it fine.
He watched it. He watched it 2 inches away from me. Ah, there he is.
I was way up Jame Purefoy's nose.
Oh, and what a nose to be up. Yes, we are talking about from 2009. It's Solomon Kane.
Sally Kane.
This is what, our 14th Robert E. Howard adaptation?
I was gonna say, Robert E. Howard, is he the most discussed creator?
Well, on this unofficial theme of this
only
season.
because you made the smart decision to spin Tarzan off in his own thing.
Correct.
Otherwise, this could have been just like a complete Burroughs.
And I'm saying it now
because John Carter.
Well, we'll get to
John Carter.
We will
Tarzan.
We will get a little John Carter in here. And I will say I will bring the Jones boys will return. I'll say this now for the Tarzan season when that comes, which I do already have arced out. So.
And
that's gonna be
who just recently, because not only because I knew it was coming up, but I felt it was a gap in my collection. I was like, The Legend of Tarzan was really good. Why don't I already have it on 4K, Blu-ray, whatever? And it's hard to get, and it's hard to get for like cheap because they released it. And then I don't think they sold any, so they just...
Are you talking about Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan?
No, I'm talking about The Legend of Tarzan.
With Alexander Skarsgård and Margot Robbie.
Yes, Skarsgård.
Oh, how is that? I've never seen it.
It's great.
It's another one in your parlance,
It's probably
Robin.
the most accurate Burroughs adaptation they've ever done, and it made no money.
In the parlance Robin often uses, America failed that movie. America absolutely failed that movie.
And hot take,
what I usually say,
America
because I don't just stop at America,
movie.
John.
The world failed
we
that
as a movie-going species failed.
Well,
that movie.
that's how I feel about Legend of Tarzan. I came out of that movie jazzed, and then was like, "What's that? No one's going? Oh shit!"
Yeah, we're never actually going to enter the lost city of Opar. Well, what's the point?
Man, they had so much potential to do all the Tarzan stuff. Anyway, save that for the Tarzan season, fellas, because we're here to talk about Solomon Kane. He's hunting monsters.
He is going up against the devil.
The devil himself.
Are you guys ready for my hot take yet?
Uh-oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I need the jingle.
Do history. Can you keep your take in the oven?
I will, but I'll say right now the caveat is I've never read a Solomon Kane.
Okay. We were just talking beforehand.
One Marvel comics.
We were just talking beforehand. Similar to Robin, I'm familiar with the character aesthetically, vaguely in storylines, and yes, I think similarly, I've only read Marvel Comics adaptations of it. And actually, so I did read a couple of the Dark Horse. Dark Horse did a run where they were adapting the stories. And I did read a couple of those. So that is
and some of those had like Mike Mignola covers, so it's just chef's kiss.
That was definitely why I picked them up. Yeah.
I mean, if there's a clear influence on Mignola's Hellboy stuff, a lot of it you could look to.
No, I would definitely say it's like if you like Mignola stuff, you go ahead and pop this movie on. I think you'll have a good time.
Now, so the history of this character, I mean, I've already covered, Howard, we've talked about Cull, we've talked about Conan. Mm-hmm. So there's not too much to add here, except for Cull was the first breakthrough character, or at least that's where Howard was like, he invented sword and sorcery with Cull. But before he could sell, because he wrote a Cull short story and was pitching it, but before it got bought and printed, he also then had created Solomon Kane. And Solomon Kane actually got published first. So some people go, the Solomon Kane short story is actually the beginning of the sword and sorcery genre, even though he didn't write it first. Right. But so basically, Solomon Kane was his second original character they kind of came up with. And Solomon Kane hit pretty well. Cull wasn't a huge success, which is why it took a little bit, but he created Conan down the line because of Cull's failure ? He got more excited about the Conan idea and kind of dropped Cull. And same with Solomon Kane. He did Solomon Kane for a while. It's usually published in like Weird Tales, and he's paid by the story. And I mean, neither he nor Lovecraft made a lot of money off this stuff. No. But the great thing about Solomon Kane for me, I mean, the history is that he did a chunk of stories and even some epic poems. He was fond of that. His epic poems include continuity, like they're actual story poems. So some of the things that are in this movie, or at least a couple of inferences, were taken not from the stories, but from the poem.
I saw that where they're like, at this scene as referencing the poem. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You don't see that too often.
And I don't know what I mean, he was, and all of the writing he did, because he committed suicide at 30.
Yeah.
A lot of the writing he did is really, it's in this tight period of like 6 years. It's unbelievable the amount of stuff he put out. And it's same with Lovecraft, who did write longer, but he also died young. So his output also really intensely packed in, because they were also, trying to make money. And as pulp writers, you had to keep submitting month after month after month after month. So anyway, Solomon Kane, in concept, is a Puritan fighter against evil. And one thing cool. that will...
Was he a former pirate or a former...
Here's one of the big problems that Solomon Kane fans, and I am a Solomon Kane fan, but I get what this movie was trying to do.
Right.
But I think one of the critiques, probably that our friend Derek, hey, shout out to Derek, would have. I haven't talked to him about it, but a lot of the reviews are similar. For the fans, they're sitting there going, there was never an origin. There's never a Solomon Kane origin. Neither is Conan. I mean, he'll talk about his, like when I was in Samaria and whatever and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But really, the whole thing is that, no, Solomon Kane shows up on the page fully formed. There's no tragic backstory. And also, the big thing is Solomon Kane never conflicted. It's totally black and white. He is humorless. And he is out to destroy evil. He does help people and innocents, but at the same time, this movie decided he needed an origin, and they did kind of a shadow origin with him here, where he's like, I was a bad person, now turn towards the light, and all that. Hold on, John. Hold on. I see hand gestures just
because I want to talk about that decision.
Well, but we're not there quite yet. That's right. I'm running this show. Whoa, watch out.
Well,
No. I would just say that
Robin's the loose
Specs.
cannon. All of a sudden, I got to deal with Specs over here.
No, I'm just saying that
Jeez.
as
All
far
right.
as again,
Put down the Nietzsche maybe Specs with the running of the show.
the context to go into talking about the
Yeah.
movie is that while I think that this is similar to, we all three love the Perry Mason TV show, right?
Jesus God.
The
Don't
whole thing
even.
about the Perry Mason TV show,
Okay.
meaning the most recent one from HBO,
Yes.
is that the
The
entire
best.
series is bringing you to the character that you were expecting all along. So
Right.
it's an extended origin, yet it still felt like Perry Mason all along the way. And I think, weirdly, for me, my hot take is, I do understand the complaints. I don't think it distracts, because I do think this entire movie is getting you to Solomon Kane. The only problem is there wasn't a sequel to then give you the full Solomon
Well, this
Kane.
is
If you know what
another.
I mean.
Add this to the list of, I think, every movie we've talked about pretty much this season has been. There were 2 more movies planned. There was going to be a whole trilogy. The next one was going to start adapting. They were going to start actually adapting the plots of the stories in the next one.
Yeah, he was going to go to Africa in the next one, which is a big part of the Solomon Kane story.
Here's the thing I was making hand gestures about the. I understand he had no origin. However, you must have some feeling of this too, Brendan, being a writer. We're all writers here. That's tantalizing then, right? Is to go like, ooh, there's no origin, which, yes, I understand he has no origin in the book, but that also means, ooh, there's no origin to fuck up or anything as well. So that's kind of open highway, right? Yeah. To go, and I think this movie, I like this movie because I think the movie suffers mostly from not having enough resources and stuff like that is where. But I think the thing I like about this movie is it purposely starts him the total opposite of where he will become, so it can do the origin thing of every piece of it is turn him to, by the end of this movie, he is the singularly minded man on a crusade against evil. And I really like that about this movie. Now, you can quibble. I can understand if you're a fan, you go, I don't like that origin for him, but I don't think it's an inherent. I think it actually makes a lot of sense to go, this man doesn't have an origin in the books. Let's create one for him.
I have a feeling that is exactly the mixed feelings Derek might be talking about, because
other fans, we don't need to. This is not just a show for Derek.
No. But just because he is, in saying that, is echoing what a lot of the people who have problem with it is. But I think that's totally valid. At the same time, I agree with you, John. I'm a fan of the character. I don't. If this movie didn't feel like a Solomon Kane story, then I would have the bigger problem. This feels, in setting, tone, visuals, I think MJ Bassett, the writer-director, nails it. And actually, I will say that this entire take was basically studio demanded.
Yeah.
Because the original drafts were just, you come in and there's Solomon Kane. So MJ Bassett was trying to make full on, and they're like, no, audiences need to know who he is and why. And so MJ Bassett's like, okay. So there's compromise here, but I still think it feels like Solomon Kane.
You think of a real Solomon Kane film, I mean, just straight adaptation of the original stories would be more of a man with no name kind of feel.
Yeah, he is one of your classic prototypical wandering heroes. He has no ties. There's
the mysterious
one friend,
stranger,
ally they introduced that isn't in this movie, because that's when he goes to Africa and he meets a shaman there named Inlongo.
Sure.
Or Inlonga or something like that.
From the original name. Yeah, from the original name, sure.
Yeah, I think, but, we've already said we're not super familiar. You could almost say anything, and we'd be like,
Yeah. Robert E. Howard, he had traveled to Africa quite a bit to research this, right?
Dude, he was in these little Texas towns.
I know.
I saw that. We've mentioned seeing the movie about him. We know a bit about Howard.
Yeah, I saw the D'Onofrio. Yeah,
there you go.
Great choice.
But and some of the more supernatural parts of the thing that always strikes me about this movie failing, and we'll of course be talking about the impact it had, which was negligible. Is what's so weird to me is that something that is huge and continues to be very popular through novels and then the video game series is The Witcher.
Yeah.
And essentially,
Right.
The Witcher owes so much to Solomon Kane. The difference being that the Witcher hero is lusty. So you've got that. He's got this wry sense of humor, and he's got powers. I mean, he's kind of superhero-ish.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One thing that would have helped Solomon Kane kind of get that is that he does, after the next couple of stories when he's in Africa, he gets the actual staff of Solomon, and it gives him some quasi-mystical abilities, and that would be kind of superhero-y. At this point, he's just a guy with a rapier and a dirk and like muskets fighting demons, which is still badass.
It's great.
Super badass.
It's really
I gotta
great.
say, like I said, I think the biggest failure of this movie is the backing of the studio behind it. They let this thing slip through the cracks.
They let it sink.
Because I agree. The two biggest things going for this movie are the filmmaker they got, MJ Bassett, who is doing a fantastic, and you can feel in every moment of the movie, she is trying to make an awesome Solomon Kane movie. And then number two, perfect choice of Solomon Kane. Purefoy rules in this movie.
I gotta give it up. He is the character, just except for the, in this movie, before he's gotten to that resolve, he is a tortured figure, which is really not the character from the book.
Right.
But he still has the look and the gravitas and everything, and he's playing it. He's playing
the best. That's the thing, and so couple dodgy effects.
Somebody wasn't
but
familiar with the story beyond what he looks like and the period that it was set in. I was blown away, with the exception of one thing, which is because I'm Old Man Jones. But how much I enjoyed it, and how much it made you want to see. If this were a pilot, you'd want to see the Solomon Kane.
I want to
TV
see where it keeps going. Yeah,
you want to see the next movies.
Speaking of The Witcher,
and and this thing is cast with solid, awesome.
Pete Postlethwaite.
Postlethwaite
shows up.
Alicia Krieg.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Oh, Alice Krieg. Yeah, of course.
Alice Krieg. Max von Sydow. R.I.P. It just and then what's his name? The Jekyll and Hyde from
Jason Fleming.
Gentleman comes in at the end.
Jason Fleming, very good character.
Jason Fleming.
He's a Guy Ritchie guy,
Comes in and does a day's worth of shooting and kills it.
Just attacks, just devours scenery. It's so good.
I mean, I was with it from the scene where Purefoy is riding that effing horse and rides between the two orc guys and just shoots them both as he's riding, and I was like, God damn,
that is thing.
It's such a simple stunt,
not even looking,
not even looking, just good.
Bang!
I was like, this is a great movie.
I'm a big fan of Purefoy in general, but this one, and he's certainly not a guy who's ever hurt for work. He's working all the time, but this is one of those where it's like, why didn't this lead to a whole action career for this guy? This guy rules.
He's so good. Did you see the TV show he did? The
Following?
It was based on a Lansdale.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Does that Happen Leonard?
Southern Detectives.
Happen
Leonard.
Happen Leonard with him.
Happen Leonard. He was really good in that.
R.I.P. to the late great Michael K. Williams, who was in that.
Michael K. Williams.
I don't want to R.I.P. all the way through this. Why do these people keep dying?
I loved Happen Leonard. That did not get spoken of enough. And he was also, I just saw him, somewhat recently. He was the villain in the Monk movie that they made, that new Monk movie.
Yes.
He was great, playing like an Elon Musk type. Wonderful.
Terrific. Yeah.
Wonderful in it.
Yeah.
Very Columbo
Can't
villainous.
shout the man's praises enough.
And
love
he
him.
Kills
and we got robbed of a series.
Yeah. And it's all on this studio that made it. They just tossed this thing out. It got consistent
because
release.
My other part of the hot take was I literally maybe I heard that they were thinking about making this movie, but I heard nothing else about it. And when you guys said we're going to watch it, I was like,
Oh, did they do that?
What is this? I haven't even heard of
Brendan,
it.
I don't.
Was there a studio backing it at all? Like,
No,
what?
not.
It
I mean,
seems like it was a foreign,
yeah.
I'm not sure who
hedge
distributed
fund or
it.
something.
I think it was a thing where they made it kind of independently and then sold it individual places, which unfortunately,
That's what it felt like to me. Was that they somehow the director writer raised the money to get a really solid cast, really solid effects.
Oh, what's interesting here?
Great editing.
No,
looking at their Wikipedia. The thing is that it's we didn't get a release here.
No,
and the distribution companies, and they are a bunch of characters. They covered just France and the UK.
Yeah.
And it was
they rolled it
international production company thing.
Yeah. They rolled it out to they opened it in France, then they opened it in England. It didn't have one consistent release date. So, and the way I saw it, I don't know about you, Brendan, but talk about that, Robin. The way I saw it is kind of like that. Just scrolling through Netflix several years ago and go, shit, they made a Solomon Kane movie? I'll watch this.
Yeah.
Actually, I was aware, and I did pay to rent it online when it came out. But when it got released here, it was advertised on the backs of comics. It was
I totally missed it.
That's all right. But it was through geek channels that people even followed that. And this thing, again, to Bassett's credit, this looks so much better than you would imagine for $40 million. This is $40 million. And there are a couple of janky effects things.
Guillermo del Toro creatures in the mirrors and Postlethwaite's acting.
Yeah.
I just kept looking
because
this is a hell of a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
I was watching it thinking about when we did Cole the Conqueror, because of course that was another Howard thing, which also was made for a little bit of money. But this shows you, even with a limited budget, she's not directing it like it's a low budget feature. Yes, like we're talking about, there's a couple moments where you're like, oh, I wish that had been, but every camera move, every image of it is as if you're watching a giant epic, and that's the And I gotta say, I don't know if you guys saw this, but she has just finished directing a Red Sonja movie. The same director.
Did she finish? I know that she was signed up.
They are in post production, according to IMDb. They have finished their editing, and I'm going.
Has she done anything between Red Sonja and Solomon Kane?
Yes, she's done a couple movies, but a lot of TV, including our beloved Reacher. She's a Reacher director.
Reacher.
She also did some Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Ash versus Evil Dead. She did some Iron Fist. She did a show I like from England called Strike Back. If anyone's seen that,
I haven't seen it.
It's a special forces British thing. If you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So is this what you watched, John, when you couldn't find an episode of Pensacola Wings of Gold?
She also worked on. I was talking about this to you yesterday, Brendan.
He's got the box set. He doesn't have to look for it.
When I'm not watching Baba Black Sheep.
There you go.
No. She did also work. I guess Amazon must like her because she worked on also The Terminal List, which is Chris Pratt's dad.
Altered Carbon as well.
Altered Carbon. Yeah, I mean, so she's done a lot of that stuff in between doing some smaller kind of. Maybe
I gotta say, if Red Sonja is a
really has the chops.
That makes me more interested in the Red Sonja movie.
It makes me more interested and excited for
it. It was like watching something that Catherine Bigelow did or something. I mean, just somebody who really gets muscular, aggressive action filmmaking, but at the same time pays attention to story and character. And
I really like the action in this because, of course, it's swashbuckly, but like you would expect. And I love the fact that it's rated R because anytime you do Robert E. Howard for PG or PG-13, why are you even? Anyway, in this one, and I'm sure John appreciated this because John, you being Mr. Action guy, you like the good sock 'em ups.
Sure.
The thing with there's that great bit where he's just laying into maybe it's I don't think it's during the pirate years. Maybe he's fighting off some of the. At one point, there's that thing where he has skewered somebody, but he has to go a couple more in.
Yeah.
Or it's like to get it all the way through, and then he's struggling to pull the sword back out of a body. And I'm like, in a lot of these movies, it's sort of like it's butter, it's no problem, and you feel it. Plus, it's all muddy and they're sweaty,
and he's not just using a sword as a sword with a serrated edge, so it's gonna catch on shit.
Well, I also just love the stuff about the speaking to the R-rated nature of this is always a thing. I feel like, and I've seen people talk about this with like Deadpool and Wolverine, where it's like, I mean, I guess it's R-rated. It doesn't go that far. It's like, it's not, it doesn't have to just be like entrails being pulled out.
No,
it is just when he whips that sword across somebody.
The opening credits of Deadpool Wolverine.
I know. I thought that was very interesting to see people go like, didn't go that far from MCU. It's like, what do you think is far, by the way? But but like,
I need to know what you think of as far.
It is just that. It is just having the movie like he whips that sword across somebody's throat and blood just sprays out quickly. It doesn't have to. You don't have to linger, but it just speaks to like, we're taking this. There's a grittiness to this. That opening scene when he is just killing his way into that castle, and you're like, Jesus Christ. That's the thing. It's just there's a weight to it, and that is what I do associate as you bring it with Howard. And like in the comics adaptations, there better be blood spilled on snow and stuff like that. That's how it looks to me.
I have one thing where I do think that even if we had gotten other films in the series, I still think it would have not become a very huge fan favorite or whatever. And the real reason is I love the character and I have read the stories, again, easily done in one volume. And they're fun, but at the same time, he is dour. That's actually the word that Robert E. Howard used to describe him. So in other words, those would probably be a hard sit. And even Purefoy, as good as he is, would probably be struggling in the future movies to give him anything. Because he has no humor to him. He's a Puritan, and it's this good versus evil thing that, so as a hero at the center of a film, you'd probably be like, man, though I will say Man with No Name was a good pull there, because technically Eastwood is just deadpan,
because I think like those movies,
charming.
Well, the way I would imagine you would approach that is by filling the world with interesting side characters. If you get an Eli Wallach, right, to play off of him, then
Lionel Stander and Once Upon a Time in the West, these guys that
I think you'd
James
see
Robart.
The focal point would be the people at the other characters, and Solomon Kane would be the problem fixer who comes in. But I don't think you would travel with Solomon Kane, because it would just be him sitting there staring into the darkness glumly. So I think it'd probably be like you get to like a Seven Samurai or a Magnificent Seven, where you get to know the townspeople because they're the ones at stake, and they need a Solomon Kane to come in and say, "I'll take care of your demon."
I think the thing I was thinking about too is like what I hear George Miller talk about his approach to the Mad Max movies was, these are anthology stories where you follow a character into, but Mad Max is never, except for the first movie, is never actually the main character of any of the stories. Yeah. He is a guy coming into somebody else's story to fix things or help things or whatever, That is always the thing of it.
We don't need another hero. No. That's the important thing.
Not here in Thunderdome, sir.
No. All we want is life beyond.
That's what John told me when he asked me to do this. Was he said, "Robin, don't worry about your brother.
Yeah,
3 people enter the podcast, only 2 leave." And I was like, "I'm on board."
Ladies and gentlemen, boys
I think Robin and I will form Master Blaster at some point.
Yeah.
The question is, who has to sit on whose shoulder?
I was going to say you're roughly
you bastard.
It's
Blaster.
I always love the ladies and gentlemen. It's dying time.
Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Who doesn't love
those movies
even bits of that movie?
I thought it was really good, except for the ending. I I thought it was terrific.
All right.
Anyway, yes. That is the thing that I think I love to see. I love when you can tell a director is really passionate about this thing. Now, can I say, as I love to do on this show, who almost was in this movie? Because I'm sure, Brendan, you might know
Hugh
this.
Jackman.
Well, I will say that's also an interesting thing, because when we did cover Van Helsing, his Van Helsing movie is
it was very
is like
Kane,
2/3 a Solomon Kane movie, and then because the look in that, particularly the look,
I don't like
this was
idiotic, goddamn piece of shit. That movie, Van Helsing. I'm sorry for you guys.
John loves it.
As a faithful listener to your podcast,
I do like.
I may skip that episode because
I do actually kind of like that movie.
I know you.
I'm sorry.
It's pretty fun.
That's right up there with Batman and Robin for me, where it's just like,
all right,
you're just raping my inner child at this point.
That's
Thanks.
a little excessive.
The
but
Joneses are in agreement.
Yeah.
Chingao.
Yeah. Anyway,
God.
no. I think would have. I understand this line of thought, though I think it's a lazy line of thought. But it certainly would have made this whole thing the B level thing, which is they really wanted Christopher Lambert for this. The studio really wanted.
I mean, it's kind of Highlandery.
That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. It sort of feels like the lazy thing, where it's like,
Greystoke.
Who's that guy who made that sword movie?
He also fits, but at the same time,
I think it would have been too old for this.
I've never found him to be a very good actor. He's okay. He's certainly okay.
He's all right.
Yeah.
He's all right. I think we won. I think Purefoy is just great.
Yeah.
Purefoy's terrific.
He's
and
got
as somebody who sat through Subway with people telling me that it was the next great French film after Diva.
That was the first
By
French
the
film
way,
I saw in the theater.
Not.
No.
It is not the next best French film after Diva. The next best French film after Diva is Betty Blue. Thank you very much.
Snap.
Okay.
But yes, anyway. My French class went to the River Oaks Theater as
Subway?
Yeah. And it was the first French film I ever saw in the theater.
Wow.
Sacre bleu, mon Dieu.
It's okay. I thought it was okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, Subway's all right. It's just somebody's going to compare it to Diva.
Yeah.
Diva's about 1,000% better.
It is. Not this podcast. Let's move on.
No, but anyway, I do think that also would have, especially they were talking about, this would have been early. This would have been about maybe about 10 years before this. So he would have been a little bit younger than, but still older. But also, like I said, it's just like, it's lazy because they're like, get that guy who's already famous for doing the sword movie. And two, it just automatically makes it. And I love Lambert. You can ask my signed poster of Highlander that's signed by him in my apartment. But it would have made it more overtly B level, right? It
I like to pair Lambert with like a nice white wine and
that goes well.
That being said, I was delighted.
I've loved Lambert ever since he gave us a French accented Scotsman to a Scottish accented Spanish guy. I think that
I think you mean Spanish Egyptian.
That's exactly what I mean. Listen, Scotsman, this is just typical of you Scots people.
You know what I like?
Whereas I come from a noble line of Spanish Egyptian people.
That's what I like about that movie, though. Everyone's accent is off. It's not one guy. They make it part of the universe. No, I think that's the other thing I will say is I was delighted by his appearance in Hail Caesar when all of a sudden Lambert is in a fucking Coen Brothers movie.
Sure.
I was like, wow, okay. That was great.
Somebody had to tell me that's who it was. Just the same as...
Because you haven't seen him in 30 years.
What's his name? The guy who played Spider-Man on TV.
Oh, Nicholas Hammond, yeah.
All of a sudden is very tall, very plastic surgery Sam Wanamaker of all people who's came up to my knee in real life.
Great performance.
And I just wish they'd given him a different name. Anyway.
All right. That sounds like
I'll let it go.
You're starting to sound like your brother on that one. But
I get a little.
You know what Jones is like? Accuracy.
Accuracy. Hey, here's another one. Why is Sharon Tate so thin?
Okay.
I thought she's She looks like Barbie. She looks like a Barbie doll.
And that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Back to this movie. So like we said, this does start with it's the class. Like I said, it is the classic origin movie. Thinking of if this is where he ends up, we've got to start him on the polar opposite. So yeah, he's a bad guy when the movie starts. Basically,
Right.
He is a guy who is just a professional killer.
He's a privateer.
Yeah.
And and he incidentally does kill enemies of his land, but also he's trying to get gold and stuff like that.
Yeah. He's just he has that line later when he's talking to Postlethwaite, and he's just like, the battlefield was the only place I felt comfortable. Killing came easy to me.
Postlethwaite, again, I cannot say enough great things about Pete Postlethwaite's performance.
Well, of course.
The way he says he fought too, but after he killed somebody, that's when he turned to faith. And I'm just, and the way he says that line, you can see all of it in his face. It's right there.
He was great.
Talk about a guy who was never bad.
He totally sells you here as this penitent, godly man, and we have seen that guy also, of course, in other films being the coldest-blooded,
the most evil, terrible,
good actor.
I mean,
where you're like, you can do it all, and you're selling it.
I think his
last. I kept thinking about Lost World, Jurassic Park, where it's like his opening speech where he comes in. I want to get a big one, a buck.
We were just talking about that yesterday because we were doing a podcast about Jurassic World. And one of the highlights, Lost World is a movie where I was talking about, there's a lot of pieces I like. One of them is Postlethwaite. He's great in it. But I was also thinking about, I think it was his last performance, or at least one of his last ones, was Ben Affleck's The Town, where he's a real rotten Irish gangster guy in that. And similar thing where he's like literally telling Ben Affleck, I'm going to clip your balls off, And you just did
you have to bring that? Why you always have to?
Yeah, and then
blue, John.
Spoiler alert: at the end of the movie, Ben Affleck shoots him in the dick because he's like, "You were gonna clip my balls." Bam, pretty badass. I like that movie a lot.
It just reminds me of something that Elektra said about Daredevil being killed.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
So anyway, it's a classic, like they did with The Shadow, the idea of use your darkness.
Right.
I mean, I actually, for a Solomon Kane origin story, again, it's wide open.
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of bad guy who the devil wants to take, but now he has found his calling and knows he probably will go to hell, but in the meantime, he is like God's assassin. So the whole thing of
they make a lot of noise about his purpose. What's
his purpose? What his and he doesn't know what it is. He thinks for a while that it's just to live a monastic life of repentance, and then even the very nice monks are like, I think you're supposed to go out there and kill bad things.
I think
you should probably get out of here now.
I think it's more kick-ass than that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think you're supposed to kick a lot of ass.
The thing I like, I love because you get the
God wants you to kick an amazing amount of ass.
Yeah, you get the whole opening sequence though, where he confronts the devil, and then basically his whole thing is like, the devil's like, yeah, man, you owe me your soul, and he's just like, gotta catch me first, is basically like the whole thing at the beginning.
That's the devil's reaper.
We
never meet the devil specifically.
That's true, but it's like his soul is damned. He knows that, and this guy is basically just running the clock to see how far he can stay ahead of the devil. Like even if this was a Solomon Kane movie, that's a sweet setup for a movie,
And he does literally come to Jesus because from that point on, to his detriment, he meets good people. He cares for them, but he's not going to break his own personal rule.
Right.
He will not kill anymore. I would have said, wasn't it obvious with their black eyes and the weird stuff on their face that maybe you could go ahead? Maybe they're not people anymore.
Not people.
But the Puritan family that he travels with that are all wonderful, and there's of course an innocent girl who gets marked and is being used basically as a pawn
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Did you know
man,
the?
how cool is the little girl witch? By the way, that whole thing
She's
is
great.
awesome.
And that
She
moment
And that
when
scene where he's
she
like
made me
going,
think of the kid who played X-23 because
Daphne Kane,
really solid. And
wonderful.
yeah, but also just the
the
plot
brother and
point of
sister are actually brother and sister. Did you notice
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
actor and actress of the family are brother and sister actors,
Yeah.
and that
I
was
like that.
Yeah.
But I just love the thing of him going like, can she borrow your crucifix to sleep with to give her comfort? And it's like Solomon Kane is already sensing it. He's like going, here you go.
Yeah,
There
no,
you
I
go,
love
buddy.
that.
No,
Yeah, it's just like,
no.
Oh yeah,
it's-
take the cross. It'll be great.
Take
but
the
I mean,
cross,
that
man.
adds to that shadow thing too that makes sense in the origin where it's just like, yeah, I lived an evil life. I can kind of smell it on others. It's not like literally a superpower, but it's just like, what the fuck is your issue,
Well, that actually
lady?
does become the staff of Solomon in the stories
Gives
does
him,
eventually give him the sense he can sense evil.
Yeah.
With the staff of Solomon.
this
so
just
in a
sort of
weird
makes
way,
it
this is
like-
kind of a precursor.
Yeah, but I like
Yeah.
that idea about just like instantly he's like, it's some weird because everybody's just like, I'm cold, I'm hungry, and Solomon Kane is just like bullshit.
Yeah, yeah, it's good stuff.
It's very good, and then it turns into the witch. So all that stuff is, it's great. That's the thing I like about this movie is even before like he turns into badass monster hunter guy, I'm enjoying the movie, which is not always the case in these. I like the Puritan family and all this stuff, and Purefoy's tortured performance, and of course, so cool when he takes off his shirt and he's got the branded cross on his back.
Right.
That rules. I mean, that.
And when he
what a
says stuff
badass.
like, and they give him great lines of dialogue. Again, Bassett, thank you.
Yeah.
I enjoy it, and I really think that the thought.
I'm
the
there
proper
opening day
thought
for
went
her
into
Red
this.
Sonja movie now.
I think I
Has
will be.
Bassett written on those shows that she's directed?
I don't believe so.
No, I don't think so. She hasn't
think-
done.
because she's a very good writer.
Yeah.
Well, she has written other of the films that she
actually
made.
she did write on both Strike Back and Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well there you go.
Yeah.
But
she's
and she is writing Red Sonja as well as directing, so it's a similar deal to this, I think.
Now I want to see this movie Death Watch, which is what got her this movie.
I like the line where he goes, it is where he's finally said, all right, you pushed me too far because you've killed nice people. And he basically says, if I kill you, I'm going to hell. And he goes, and that's a price I am more than happy to pay. And it's just like, wow. And then he unleashes
the best.
kick-ass. Oh.
The complete kick-ass. The 100% Kane.
But again,
he brought in the total Kane.
He brought in the total Kane, but towards the end of the movie, I have to say, nitpick, all the final fight scenes, no hat. And I'm like, dude, the hat.
Okay.
The hat is
Well-
so great.
Yeah, but that hat's flying off the second he starts fighting.
Yeah.
It shouldn't, because that's iconic.
Did you ever read the graphic novel that the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes was based on?
Oh, sure, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
They make him look a little bit like Solomon Kane in that too.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, in the behind the scenes, the graphic novel guy is showing Robert Downey Jr. and it's like really long hair for Sherlock and very tall and kind of
look at this.
Asian eyes.
Yeah.
and Robert Downey Jr. just looks at me and goes, "So Keanu was supposed to play this?"
Oh, there's a movie.
Keanu Reeves would have been a good Solomon Kane.
Oh, hell yeah. And actually,
I will, having seen the Wick movies, yes,
John
because
Wick.
the sort of
100% feels like if you brought that up, he'd be like, I've already given it some thought, actually.
and
like
the
he's
flatness of his acting,
well,
in this case, would fit.
Keanu's very, very good at stoicism. That's his thing.
He is.
Stare
He
off
is.
into the distance and be like, the pain I've experienced, that sort of thing, right? That's, I mean, Wick,
I've experienced.
like you talk about the obviously the aesthetics of the genre are different, but the John Wick performance is very Solomon Kane, stoic
very
guy.
much.
I'm on a mission. I don't want to be doing this necessarily, but I'm doing it. But you just made me think, and I'm looking into but like, has Purefoy ever played Sherlock? It feels like at some point he would have played Holmes.
I don't know.
I'm looking.
No, the guy who played Jarvis, Stark's butler in the
James
Agent
Darcy.
Carter shows.
He did the one
He
with...
played a young Sherlock Holmes.
That's the one where D'Onofrio's
not
Moriarty.
young Sherlock Holmes, but...
Yeah. Which you all
yeah.
saw that's becoming a TV show. Young
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, Guy Ritchie's doing it.
All right.
Well, maybe he'll do okay.
I'm interested. No, he has not. Purefoy has not played up to this point Sherlock Holmes. It just seems like most British leading men have.
It's how you get out of RADA.
We will talk about him again in a couple weeks though, because he is also in John Carter.
John Carter.
Huh.
Yeah. So
I can't wait.
Yeah.
We failed John Carter, I tell you that much.
We as a movie going public. As a movie going species.
We'll talk about there were a lot of mistakes made on that. Maybe they spent too much money on a John Carter movie.
And I don't know about that. One thing they did to save money was drop off of Mars, which is one of the stupidest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, but Mars movies
The
don't
audiences
do well,
are not going
Brendan.
to flock to a movie called John Carter.
They
They're also not
called it
going to flock to a movie called George Hi, I'm George. I mean, it's like, what the hell is...
Yeah. Well,
You don't just
save it for that episode, Brendan. Save it for that episode.
right.
Interesting though, James Purefoy is joining the cast of The Witcher now as well. So
there you go.
Oh, well, there you go.
yeah. Although
And maybe will make up for the fact they've swapped out the lead.
for a considerably worse actor, yeah, I'm not watching. Anyway, back to this. So yeah, the idea too that I also like in the origin story the fight against evil starts as a personal battle.
Yep.
Before it becomes
yeah.
my crusade. I think, like I said, I can understand if people longtime fans are like, this isn't quite what I expected. But in terms of selling Solomon Kane to a mass audience who, look, this isn't not true to the material, as you're saying, Bren, because there is no context for this. So, but in terms of if I'm going to try to sell this character, that the vast, vast, vast majority of people watching this, let's be honest, if they had given it a proper release, I should say, conceivably, aren't familiar with this, they're doing a good job of building the blocks of who this guy will be so he can be the guy from the stuff. But we're on board with him because we started with him not as a stoic guy, but you're like, oh, these are the parts that make this guy up that are going to turn him into.
That's why I say I think
like Mad Max, actually.
This isn't a bad way to do an origin, and that is trying to get people familiar with the character that, as you know, really a lot of people aren't familiar with. And it doesn't insult anything that is canonical. I think I don't know what they could have done to get more besides maybe advertise it.
Well, I think that's
because this isn't bad on any level. This isn't bad on any level.
They buried this, like we talked about. It didn't get a theatrical release in the U.S.
It feels like they pulled a Zaslav on it.
It feels that way, yeah, like a tax write-off.
The movie came out.
Passion here.
The movie came out in December of 2009 in France. That's when it first opened. Then February of 2010 in England, and then didn't come out at all in America theatrically until it was released on DVD in 2013. So 4 years after it premiered theatrically, it came to the U.S. just sort of dumped out on home video.
This thing never had a chance.
They killed this thing.
I feel like sending a letter to MJ Bassett and just going, I am so sorry.
I am looking at this, though.
Sorry.
I do want, because I think obviously it opened in France. I think that's probably where it did the best. I'm going to go on eBay and look for, there is a 2-disc collector's edition French release of this movie that has a bunch of features and stuff.
I looked and it's like $50.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah.
That's too bad.
You gotta...
Because this movie deserves to be rediscovered, because
it does.
The biggest
listen to us, people listening to us.
The biggest enemy of this film is the fucking studio that made it. They just
failed.
Didn't care. Which is
they could have used a little bit more money, but I still think it looks amazing.
Obscure prequel.
Well,
and the only one that I could think of besides this was My Name is Modesty.
Oh, yeah.
You guys know about that?
Yeah, the Modesty Blaze thing.
Modesty Blaze thing that Tarantino
I've never seen it.
executive produced. I did. It's It's okay. It's not really very good.
Modesty Blaze is someone that does deserve a good adaptation.
An actual,
It's unfortunate sometimes because you're at the mercy of these corporations that have the money.
Yeah.
The thing that's really baffling about this one, though, is this company bought the rights to Solomon Kane in 1997, worked for years to try to make something, and then for them to just dump it out. I mean, it may be the case of they just didn't have the money. They just didn't have the pull to bring it where it needed to go. They had enough to make it,
but
the thing
to
is
not
that they
not do something like show it at American Film Market.
That's what I'm saying. Is like the idea that the distributors.
Distributors interested.
They did,
because Lionsgate probably would have gone for it.
They did show it at the 2009 San Diego Comic-Con. They did screen it at which is not a film festival. But they at least tried to get the fans whipped up, which is a smart strategy.
Yes.
Obviously just didn't work.
It's just a shame because it's so good.
Yep.
And my only big quibble about it is that I don't like seeing kids killed or in peril.
Understood. That's you having a personal reaction
But I fully own that that's not really a detraction from the film. That's just more of a personal thing. And the film works very well. It's not extraneous. You need that in order to.
It's not there just for shock value by any stretch of imagination.
So this not succeeding, this being completely off my radar.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
Well, the fact you've never even heard of it is, or hadn't heard that it.
The thing about this, I think we talked about. I do wish the movie had a little bit of money. I think this is a thing that had this gotten that reaction, gotten some success, we could have had a better looking second. I feel like this is a movie that could have been a really cool movie that needed more resources, and then we're all talking about, Solomon Kane 2, that's where it gets really fucking good.
That's what it would have been.
Yeah,
like,
it would have been a Rathacon, man.
This
sets it up.
Good, but it did need that. I mean, and this is strictly outside of the way the studio failed or whatever, but it certainly needs that extra little bit of cash to really sell some great visuals. But they needed to.
If you imagine as well, everyone here is great, but if you had really gotten a little bit more money and really pursued a big name as the villain in the second movie, you could have had him square off with some revered British actor doing a big. Because Fleming is great in this, but he does only pop in for a little bit there. Right. This movie doesn't have a standout bad guy per se.
It's true.
But you could have James Earl Jones like in Conan the Barbarian, where you're like,
in the second one when he goes to Africa, you could have some of these amazing African actors, a lot of whom are UK based.
Yeah,
and I would tell Ejiofor.
Oh my God!
Could you imagine that? That guy. By the way, that is a guy who can do anything.
One thing I do like about Lester, Adrian
Lester,
Hustler.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, that guy. Because I've seen him in plenty, but watching him in Renegade Now and
Renegade Now, Johnny.
I will say this, John. I know you haven't seen it.
I haven't.
But there's a scene in it where he casts a spell. And all I could sit there was going, watch that, Benedict Cumberbatch, because that's how you effing cast a spell.
Hey, whoa. Cumberbatch is doing just fine, sir.
He's doing just fine, but then you see this and you go, oh, there's another level. I'm telling you, John, watch it. You'll be like, ooh.
Well, I was going to watch it right until they said there will be no more of it.
John,
it's worth
John,
it.
Don't fail the one season they made. Please. Please.
All right.
You will enjoy it.
I'm sure it's fine.
It's so effing good. It's so effing good.
Anyway, to get back on the film at hand, it's great. Watch it.
Also, we didn't mention fun little part for Mackenzie Crook as the priest.
I think Mackenzie Crook
sacrificing people to.
You had a quibble?
A tiny quibble. Unless I missed something, he never goes back and just kicks that guy's ass, does he?
No,
he doesn't.
That was a miss.
That needs a. You know what they could have used.
That would have been a thing.
You know what they could have.
Should have had that as a thing.
Here's the note I would give it. The Blade thing of what you thought I forgot about you at the very end of the movie.
Right.
If he had showed up.
Where he comes back.
Yeah.
He's like, things went pretty hardcore at my old house. But now I'm back to here to.
Oh, that's Blade 2. Sorry, that's Blade 2. That
Stop
ends
feeding
with
zombies.
That Blade 2 where he lets the vampire go, and I love that ending. Oh, what you forgot? I think I forgot about you. And then
that was a great coup de grace, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Yep. Wesley Snipes.
But yeah, Mackenzie Crook's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's absolutely great.
A great character. A lot of great. We talked about some of that, but like Rory McCann from Game of Thrones is in here.
There's a few Game of Thronesies.
Well, I was thinking about Rory McCann and thinking about other things I've seen him in, including this and Game of Thrones. So I'm like, so this guy is just like, yeah, you need to be in like vaguely medieval settings. That's just your vibe, sir. I'm sorry. It's just where you go. Yeah, I just like the idea of like that's what I do for a living.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that. But yeah, because he gets his little crew together at the end. You also have Philip Winchester, who I've seen in a bunch of stuff as well.
I will say that is very non-Solomon Kane. He's a solitary dude. So at the end, not that I was thrown, but I'm like,
but he's not yet that guy.
He's got a group now. He's got a gang.
This is still early days. We're still in.
I know.
Well, and you're talking about. I mean, he does eventually get a sidekick and stuff.
No,
by the way,
get a sidekick.
You just told me he did.
No, that is an ally and friend, but he doesn't travel with them. Okay. He is like in 2 stories.
I do want to. We don't.
Are you saying that Solomon Kane is like Reacher?
No, because Reacher brings in his buddies all the time.
Reacher doesn't like working with people.
He doesn't like working with people, but he works with people in every single episode.
That is something that
he talks a good game about not working.
I'm just
with
saying.
People.
The thing about
he doesn't like working
with now I'm going to turn into source material guy, Brendan. The thing that's interesting, and they have chosen books where he works with people. It's interesting because of the show. They have chosen books that have given him more of an ensemble. There are much more solitary Reacher stories.
I will say this:
Lee Child set him up as the guy that walks into the town,
the modern
like
man
a
with
Western.
no name. Yeah. And usually,
but I will say, you turning into source material, man. You should work on the costume because that is. I'm not compelled by this. The look is not what I would want.
Speaking of looks, we don't talk about the posters like we do over Meet the Monsters, but I do in the IMDb pictures.
Okay.
There is an awesome poster for this movie that I want, which is it's a drawn poster of Solomon Kane reared up on his horse with the hat and the sword, very Zorro style. But he's atop a drawing of a skull that's dripping blood with gnarly, like, gothic trees growing out of it, and there's a bunch of crows above him.
Is this an official poster?
It's got all the markings.
Did they hire somebody who worked for AIP at some point?
I wonder, it has that vibe to it. I do wonder if this was like what they brought to Comic-Con with them or something like that, if they handed this out or something, because it's got all the official stuff on it. It looks awesome. Brendan, I don't know if you have it there.
I'm still trying to get there.
It's in the IMDb pictures for it.
Stop yelling.
There's also a guy hanging from one of the trees. It's very cool. I'm gonna try to track this poster down.
Man, I wish there was a Hellboy Solomon Kane crossover. That would be so
speaking
awesome.
of, you guys saw the trailer for that new Hellboy thing? Boy,
I did.
That broke my heart, man, because that is garbage.
Oh, look at that poster. That
pure
is cool.
Sci-Fi Channel original movie garbage.
Kind of. I was thinking straight to video, but
but it's that same thing about like, how they massacred my boy.
But with every single one, isn't it always, isn't it always the case that Mignola's like, this is finally the
and this is one I think he's got a writing credit on this one. It's like, great, it's true to the comics. It costs $10 though, and Hellboy is played by a guy who's I've never seen in anything ever, and the makeup
if
is
you're gonna do Hellboy,
cheap.
Make him red. Don't make him this muted. I like color.
That's also a Brendan Jones oft quote. Is I like color.
Yeah, no, but he's got a solid point with this because Mignola does do kind of black and white or gray muted, and then Hellboy is a very bright red.
Mm-hmm.
What? Del Toro gave us that.
Now who's Mr. Source Material? It's Brendan Jones.
Oh, you'll always. I'm never fighting for the throne permanently.
He took the crown back.
By the way, nor do I want it. To be fair, people don't like the source
because you
material
realized
guy.
that it was tough. That no.
People don't like the source material guy. That's not a popular.
You know who does like
the
the source material guy are the people who created the sources. They're like, thank God we've got a champion.
You and the ghost of Robert E. Howard are good friends. It's very true.
I would like it if we were.
Let's talk about some
That's
highs.
a ghost tour they'll never let
You want to talk about some highs and lows in this film? What people think of it?
Oh dear, I've been kind of dreading what this was going to be.
Well, we'll start as always with sort of where we are for the highs, of course. I'm not reading this review, but I'll just read you the title of this review because it's interesting. Somebody did write a review that was titled, "This is like Star Wars and Dark Knight set in the 17th century."
Yeah, okay.
Explain, sir.
Wow.
Anyway, but I think we'll agree we'll agree with this user here, which is Jennifer 290984336.
Hey, Jennifer.
Yeah.
8675309.
Yeah. That is
Jennifer,
that's Jenny.
I've got your number.
Yeah.
It is extremely long.
Excuse me, Tommy Two-Tone. Could you please go somewhere else?
But I think we will agree with Jennifer right from the title here. Title of the review is "Deserves Much Higher Recognition. Superb."
Yes.
As an avid reader of Gothic fantasy, I am not easily pleased when it comes to big screen versions of these kinds of characters or stories. And
why aren't more bodices being ripped?
After so many disappointments in the past when stories falter or special effects either take over the screen or are shoddy and laughable, I always feel as apprehensive as I do interested when I start watching a film like this. However, I can honestly say this film is one of the best I have ever seen. I wished I'd seen it at a cinema. Must be a British user. But hadn't heard of it. As soon as the final credits rolled, I wanted to watch it all over again and instantly went online and bought the DVD, something I rarely do. Everything about this film blew me away. From the atmosphere of gritty, cold despair. We didn't talk about that, but I do agree. The aesthetics of the movie, I love the gray skies. And
incredible production design.
Yeah,
they shot trees.
They shot it in Scotland. They shot it in Scotland, which gave it that foggy it was great. They really got a lot of production value. Anyway, sorry, I just wanted to add that because I do really agree with that.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
The incredible, and then in parentheses, British, 3 exclamation points, cast. I will just say, celebrating that a cast is British, you're celebrating all the time then, right? Because it's just who isn't a British cast? Anyway, to the imagery and beauty of some of the scenes, I could wax lyrical about so many parts of the film that I'd basically be commenting on virtually every scene. I don't know where I'd start, and once I did, I wouldn't be able to stop. I can't believe it's not been released in the U.S. yet. This was written in 2012, so it still hadn't come out here. And I sincerely hope it will be re-released in cinemas here in the UK sometime in the future, as I would love to see it on a big screen. Sorry, Jennifer, I don't think that happened. Fantastic, just utterly made of every kind of win imaginable. 10 out of 10 stars.
Yeah. I can't believe it's not butter.
Yeah.
That was a problem I've had. Oh, sorry. That's something else.
But,
Here's where you expected this to be the case from user NanoFrog. This is about what I expected the negative review to be.
Oh, jeez. NanoFrog?
This guy again.
Disrespect and confusion over authenticity.
Wow.
Very poor, shameless exploitation of the work of Robert E. Howard, who must be spinning in his grave. The author of this original story was such a gifted storyteller. His Solomon Kane bears zero resemblance to this Hollywood film. Not a Hollywood film, foreign produced, but that's all right. Like the terrible films made about Conan, this simplistic farce bears no resemblance to the author's great storytelling. People who give this film a positive review are clearly not familiar with the plots, style, and characterizations built by Robert E. Howard. This is too bad.
John, when he calls it a simplistic farce, is he talking about that one scene where Kane is like killing a bunch of demons, and they play yakety sax.
I
Is
think
that
you
what
might.
he's talking
Yeah.
about?
For
Because
one
It's
scene,
where
it
he's
was
looking for the Devil's Reaper, but they
Yeah.
keep going through these different doors.
Right.
And it's just, yeah.
Yeah. At one point, the Devil's Reaper is
is
chasing
that where
him.
John Ritter falls behind the couch?
That's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
it.
I did
it
think-
kills me every time.
Yeah. This is too bad. I was so excited initially to see this film. As a boy, Robert E. Howard's stories were a vital part of my life. Kane was one of his more obscure characters, so I was hopeful. However, this film does not honor a single line, moment, or idea of the original stories. They have just stolen his name and wardrobe and made a film that makes no sense at all to me. I was unable to finish watching this film. 1 out of 10 stars. This guy turned it off.
Wow.
I will say a lot of the 1-star reviews are like, do these guys even read the stories? What the fuck is this bullshit, you know?
Oh, wow. Well, my dear younger brother, who is Quibble Master.
Yeah.
I'm a cool master.
I think
Quibble Master.
I mean, I think
He enjoyed it.
I think we're all in agreement on that.
I understand where they're coming from, and certainly, as we've just been talking about, I'm Mr. Source Material, but at the same time, this doesn't contradict what Howard wrote. It's just not based specifically on any of the actual written stories. It is constructed from whole cloth, which probably ticked a lot of people off.
Sure.
And he is not fully formed Solomon Kane in this movie. So if we got sequels, they would probably have shut up. The problem is this will probably be, for years to come, the only Solomon Kane you're ever going to see. So in that case, they have a right to be upset because they didn't get the guy. They got proto guy.
Yeah.
So
but the movie I think because he didn't finish the movie also is key. I think that is coming at the movie with bad faith, or assuming bad faith on the part of the filmmakers, when actually what they're doing is explaining everything about why he is Solomon. The whole story is the journey to Solomon Kane. That's like seeing the 09 Star Trek and going, this guy's not Kirk.
Yeah.
You're like, well, no, it's the story of how he becomes Kirk. Batman this guy's not Batman. It's like, but he's gotta be, because that's you know. And so, you know, like it's a little bit the MCU thing we talk about, Brad, where it's like they make changes, but you're a smart enough viewer that you're going, oh, I see why they made that change.
Why.
And
I then I also
They didn't
trust
set Tony Stark and Iron Man in 1960s Vietnam the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I want him going up against a Vietnamese warlord, and there's a tripwire.
Yeah.
What, man?
Yeah. So anyway,
So much. Tony Stark is a serious dude.
So that's we all highly recommend Solomon Kane, though. I will say, seek this
bro.
out. It's on Amazon Prime as of the recording of this, so it's easy to watch.
Amazon Prime for free, thank God.
Yeah.
Because I have a dime this week.
Oh, do you need some help, Rob? You need some soup?
I don't want to say the words, but you can help an old man out.
I could borrow some money. This is getting sad. But
I was channeling our grandfather.
Yeah.
Next,
I
I was just doing sad poor guy.
For
next
us,
week,
that's family.
That's
next week on the show, I have a feeling Mr. Brendan Jones will have some problems as source material guy.
What?
I will give you the tagline. You tell me what movie this is. Here's the tagline.
Right. I'm ready.
Protect the law by breaking it.
I don't know. That could be so many things.
Well, that's the famous hit film Seth Rogen's The Green Hornet, folks. Next week on the show. Next
I will
week.
not be able to attend. I'm
Seth
so
Rogen's
very
The
sorry.
Green Hornet. A movie, once again, I like a lot of parts of. And I saw it in 3D in the theater.
I wished I'd seen it in 3D. That's one regret I have about that. Seeing that movie is that I wasn't able to see it in 3D because it looked like Gondry really worked hard.
I mean, I will say, yeah, you
I have a regret that I saw the film. Is that counting?
I'm with you on the Robin's already hit on one of the things I will posit about it. Gondry attacks the movie like nobody's business.
We'll
talk about whether or not
undeserving of Gondry.
We'll talk about whether or not there's tonal issues, and we'll also have a lot of comments from Seth Rogen, who's spoken very openly about the experience of making that movie not being a super pleasant experience. So yeah,
he lost the weight. I'll give him that. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I think it's an interesting failure as a movie.
Okay,
so
we'll talk about it.
We will talk about it next week.
I have a few hot takes on it too, and that's without having rewatched it. So
yeah. So that'll be next week on the show. But of course, if you want more from us and everything on the Punch Up Entertainment Network, you're going to head over to our Patreon page, which is patreon.podbean.com/punchup. There you can get, like I said, cool exclusive content as well as help support the network. So much appreciated. But yeah, that'll do it until next week. The Case File.